All right, today we are continuing rational functions. This time we are dividing rational expressions, okay? We'll do multiplication. We did that already. Today is division. And then later on, of course, we'll do addition and subtraction. So today we're doing dividing rational expressions. And it says to divide rational expressions, multiply by the reciprocal. The reciprocal means we flip upside down. All right, and you'll see what that looks like. Okay, we won't flip both of them upside down because that would be almost the same thing. We're going to flip the second one upside down. Okay, then it says monomials only, multiply together, then simplify. Remember, we would have flipped the reciprocal. Okay, then we would multiply together, then simplified. And then it says binomials and trinomials, just like when we did multiplication and simplifying. Factor completely, factor whatever we can factor, and then simplify. Okay, and then remember, if it's ever a minus b, which a and a are the same, and then b minus a, where b is the same, that would just equal -1. That'd be the same as saying 7 minus 6 over 6 minus 7. That's 7. That's obviously -1. All right. So let's begin. Number 1, we have 5xy divided by 16x cubed, and then, it's over 16x cubed, not divided by, but that will be divided by 35x squared y squared over 8y to the 5th. All right, so step 1 is this. We rewrite this 5xy, and remember, this means x to the first and y to the first, over 16x cubed. Okay, notice that was the same, but we want to turn it into multiplication. How do we do that? We're going to multiply it by the reciprocal of this one. So we're going to flip it. 8y5 is on top over 35x squared y squared. All right, all I did was just flip it. Now we're going to multiply them together. 5, we're going to just multiply across the top. 5 times 8 is 40. I'm going to write it down here. 5 times 8 is 40. And then there's no other x to multiply with, so that just moves down. X. And then y to the first times y to the 5th is y to the 6th. Remember, when you multiply, you add together. All right. And then that is over 16 times 35. Of course, here you'll need a calculator. I'll give you a couple seconds. And if you do it, you'll see 16 times 35 is 560. And then let's continue on with the letters. X to the third times x to the second is x to the 5th. And then y to the second just moves down. All right. Now we need to simplify 40 and 560. All right. Both of those, believe it or not, can actually be divided by 40. Remember, this is where we got to find the highest number both of these can be divided by. That's what simplifying is. So remember, it's the highest number, not just a number, but the highest number that both can be divided by, because we got to get it in its simplest form. If you just chose 2, that's great. They both can be divided by 2. But then you're left with a bigger number, and you have to going down. You have to keep going down, okay? You keep going down so you get to the simplest form. They both can be divided by 40. All right, so divide both by 40. 40 divided by 40 is 1. So at the top, we just have x and then y to the 6. We're still not done simplifying. I just want to show you the number part. Then 560 divided by 40 is actually 14. And then we have x to the 5th, y to the 2nd. All right, now from here, we need to simplify those letters. How do we do that? Again, when we simplify exponents and variables, this is how we do it. Let's just write it out. X, y, 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 5th y, and the 6th y over what's on the bottom, 5 x's and 2 y's. All right? And remember, if there's one matched at the top, they cancel out. So that cancels with that. And then these 2 y's cancel with these 2 y's. So what are we left with? On the top, we have y to the 4th over x to the 4th. Now let's just combine that with that 14 we had. Okay, I know I'm all over the place. Our final answer here, remember we simplified the 40 and the 560 to be 1 over 14. And then we simplified the letters to be y to the 4th on top over x to the 4th. Do we need this 1 right here? No, we don't. So we erase that 1. And this is our final answer. Okay. I kind of was all over the place. I did it in the longest possible way. Okay, there are obviously little shortcuts you can make. You don't have to write out all the y's and all the x's if you just know to subtract them, okay? When you're dividing them, when you're simplifying them, subtract them, just like we did when we were simplifying them last week. All right? So we'll move on. I know that one question took a while, so I'll try not to take up too much of your time, but I just want to make sure we get it. All right, let me zoom out so I have some more room. All right, so we're moving on. We're going to do number 2, because here we're going to have to factor it out. All right, so here we have 10 over 4x minus 8. All right, that has a GCF, so I'm actually going to erase it. This 10 over, we notice 4x minus 8, 4x and negative 8. They both can be simplified a little bit more. They both have a greatest common factor of 4. Okay, there's no trick to that. You should just be able to look at 4x minus 8 and say, hey, both of those can go into 4. So let's take that 4 out. So 4, and what are we left with? X minus 2. Okay, like I always say, that should become second nature. All right, that wasn't even factoring. We just took out the GCF. Factoring is going to be over here. So we're going to multiply it by the reciprocal. So we're going to flip these. Please do not forget to flip these. All right, so on top now we have x squared plus x minus 6. And then on bottom we have 2x squared plus 6x. And again, both of these can be factored and or have GCFs. So I'm going to do the bottom part first. This 2x squared plus 6x. Okay, there's a GCF here. One thing I showed my face-to-face students once when we were doing GCFs, okay, I don't want us to overthink GCFs. We're just going to break it down. We're going to look at both terms and say, what do they both have? They both can be divided by 2. So 2 is on the outside, okay? Most of us would have just put 2 and we were done. But what else do they both have? They both have x's. This has 2 x's. This has 1. So the lowest possible is 1. So we're going to move 1x outside, okay? That is actually the greatest common factor. So what are we left with? X plus 3. All right, and that's how we find the GCF and take it out. Again, don't forget, when we take out the GCF, divide both of these by the GCF. This divided by this, and we get this, and this divided by that, and we're left with that. Okay, so we just simplified that a little bit more. So let me do it. 2x, and then we're left with x plus 3. All right, one last step before we start simplifying. This one at the top, we obviously have to factor that out. X squared plus x minus 6. Again, it shouldn't be too bad. You should automatically know the two factors. But in case you don't, again, we're looking for two factors that are going to multiply to be negative 6 and add up to be 1. 1 and 6, no, that can't get us to 1, but 2 and 3 can. Like I said, you should have known right away. Now, once again, here's the trick I always say to figure out which one is negative. If b is positive, the smaller number is negative. If b is positive, the smaller number is negative. Because again, negative 2 times 3 is negative 6, and 3 minus 2 is positive 1. So x minus 2, x plus 3, those are our two factored out. All right, so let me rewrite that. X minus 2, and then x plus 3. Okay. And now this is where we simplify. Again, we can simplify anything up top and anything on bottom. So we see, what does the top have? this x minus 2 and this x minus 2 down below cancel out. And over here, this x minus 3 cancels with this x minus 3. So we're left on the top, we're left with 10. And then on the bottom, we're left with 4 times 2x. 4 times 2x is 8x. All right, we can simplify that a little bit more. Please don't just put that as your answer. We're going to simplify it a little bit more. Just divide it by 2, and we get 5 over 4x. And that is the simplest form of the answer to number 2. And we're done. All right. So I'll stop here as to not take up too much of your time. If you try number 3, as you can see, it's a little bit long, but again, it shouldn't be too bad. This part, we're going to find a GCF. This part, we're going to find a GCF, and the 2 down here, we will factor out, and then move on from there. Simplify, and then multiply whatever is left, and then just simplify your answer. All right, shouldn't be too bad. Do number 3, practice yourself, complete the worksheet, turn it in.